Welcome to MedMen. My name's Pim and that's Andy.
And what are we talking about today, Pim?
Today, Andy, we are talking about 3 discovery questions that feel like cheating.
Oh, I love this one. Absolutely love this one. This one's one of my favorites. This is almost one that I found out just by trying it. Just one of those things that just came out and I was like, oh, that worked better than I was expecting it. And what it's around is around decision process. And the idea is this: if you ask somebody what needs to happen, let's say no one would ever do this, but let's just say you say, what's your decision process? They typically will start to think forward, right? And they'll say, okay, well, that person needs to be involved. We need their approval. And if they give the approval, then it needs to go to this person for budget. And then you have procurement, then you have legal. And they're looking forward like that. But that's not often very useful, because those are kind of things, I just came up with them and they're probably not too far off the truth for most opportunities, right? And what you're missing is the context, is the richness, is the things that happen that you need to know about, because they're the ones that catch you out. And so if you ask, instead of, what's your decision process, or, what needs to happen, or any of those questions, you instead ask, the last time you bought a solution like this, what happened? Or what happened the last time you bought a solution like this? However your style comes across to get that question across. And what tends to happen then is the person doesn't look forward, they look backwards, and they visit history. And what you get then is the blueprint of the last time they bought something like your solution. And so what it uncovers is the things that they wouldn't necessarily think about if they were looking forward. And so you start to get all these little gems, like, oh, well, one thing is actually new. The last time we bought a solution like yours was we now have this security addendum that takes 3 weeks to sign, or something like that. And so all of a sudden you now found you found something that could take 3 weeks, and you can potentially get that in motion already. So you save those 3 weeks further on. It's just a beautiful way of uncovering, things that are going to happen that the person wouldn't normally think about.
Yeah, it will provide so much clarity, because also if they haven't bought something like this before, you will see that too. And it means that you have work to do together, right? You can start figuring it out.
Yeah. And that's a great point, Pim, because if someone's answer to, what happened the last time you bought a solution like this is, I've not done it before, you've either got a red flag there, which is that person, if they've been at the organization a long time and they've never been trusted to buy something, you might question their authority to buy something. Or they could be perhaps new to the organization, which is at least an amber flag, because again, they're not going to know how to get things done. There's going to be a load of uncharted territory that they're going to have to cross they might not be able to give you any confidence.
But then again, people that just come into a business can also be a very effective champion, right? So there may be multiple avenues.
Yeah, because they have that enthusiasm, they have that kind of new, freshness and that kind of stuff. So yeah, swings and roundabouts a little bit on that one.
Either way, I like it. That works.
Yeah. Have you got one, Pim? What's yours?
The one that I was thinking about has to do with metrics, because we all know, and we hear this all the time with our customers as well, it is difficult to get metrics from customers. And sure, we position M1s, right, to paint the picture of the possible. But a question that I really like is like, hey, when we typically work with organizations like you, churn is about 20%. What does it look like for you? And it creates like a lot of space for the prospect to then go like, well, actually, it is a little bit less or more or whatever it may be, right? But it does paint like a very simple picture for them to respond to and get some early stage metrics going.
I think a couple of things are happening with that as well. I think one is that quite often customers don't want to share their metrics. They think they sort of shouldn't share them with a salesperson, and perhaps you haven't won the credibility for them to share them with you yet. But if they then hear you talking about other organizations that have shared with you, it's like, okay, maybe it's okay if I do share this information. And secondly, well, if other organizations are sharing with Pim in this case, then, says that he's a trustworthy person, and therefore it adds that credibility, it adds that trustworthiness, and it makes the person sort of open up. And then the other part here is it's almost like that selective amnesia. You kind of forget things until someone gives you that context point. Where
you're already talking about it,
yeah.
Right? You're opening that door. And I like the thing that you said about building credibility. I will never forget how you put this first. If you look from the perspective of a potential champion back at the salesperson, you want them to be the trusted advisor. So things like this will get you there fast.
Yes, indeed.
Third one, maybe?
Third one is one that we've pinched. It's from the Chris Voss, the former FBI negotiator. And what's interesting about this one is I think it's a little bit like a Jedi mind trick. And it goes like this. It sounds like you have some next steps in mind. I know it sounds so simple, but if you ask that towards the end of a meeting at any stage to, champion, potential champion, contacts, economic buyer, whoever it is, something happens. something happens where they give you a much better answer.
Isn't it the confidence thing as well that you kind of give them? It's like, hey, I see that you have like your ducks in a row. Tell me what we do next.
Yeah, I think it's that. I also think that if you ask somebody, I feel like in often salesperson to customer relationships, the customer is often a little bit defensive. They're feeling like they don't want to give away too much. They feel like they have to retain their power. And if they say, you know, what do you think the next steps should be? They almost see that as maybe like a trick question, and they don't want to overcommit. They don't want to give away too much power. And so they kind of go, well, you know, the classic one would be, well, thank you very much. Can you send us through the deck? We'll debrief and we'll email you what we'll do next, because they're kind of putting their barrier up then.
Yes.
But this question seems to sort of jump over that barrier. It sounds like you have some next steps in mind. Sometimes you see them sort of almost like it's almost like a jolt, and they sort of twitch and they go, yes, and they turn into robot mode and they start saying, yeah, well, you need to involve Kathy in finance. She needs to be involved, and then you need to meet with Steve, and should we get Steve into the next meeting? And all of a sudden these things are happening. And by the way, I've tried this. I've sold all the way around the world with this. I've done it, you know, I've used it in the Middle East. I've used it all over Europe. I've seen it work in the US as well. And so it is the closest thing to a Jedi mind trick I've seen in sales. And the beauty of it is it's just simple, and it's just an open question.
Yeah, well, combined with MEDDICC, I'd say a MEDI mind trick then.
MEDI mind trick. I'll drink to that.
Cheers, Andy.
Cheers, Pim.